Oh, it just
Sorry about that.
I was like,
now we're recording.
It was telling me weird things. Yeah, so I would start with figuring out, okay, who do you feel most drawn to? Who do you feel that you've got the training, criteria to meet with and to really impact their lives? That is difficult for a new person starting out. But as you get going a little bit, you start to learn some of that stuff, and internship, practicum, and all that stuff. You start to get a feel for that, hopefully. But as you go along, it's really learning who those people are and then giving Google some information. So on your website, you're going to want to have specific niche pages on your website. Often when I get onto a therapy practice owner's website and they are, they're great at working with anxiety and depression in Des Moines, Iowa. And I get on their website and I can't tell that that's what they're great at. Sometimes it's like lots of words, but no sort of nothing that jumps out on the page, like a heading at the top of the page that says, I work with anxiety and depression in Des Moines, Iowa. Something that people need to latch onto, something that Google needs to latch onto. And then specific niche pages that talk about anxiety and that talk about depression and that talk about those things in relation to, hey, this is where I am in Des Moines, Iowa. Google really needs to be able to, and people need to be able to see that. Looks like more people are jumping on and all kinds of things happening. But Google needs to be able to see that that's where you are and that those are your people. And it's the same thing with the people that are searching. They need to be able to quickly tell. And so often what I do is I get on people's page and they'll have a whole list of things that they treat. And I'll say, okay, where are your specific pages for that list of things? And they're like, oh, that would be so much content, because I'm telling people you need at least 500 words on the page. And they're like, how do I do that for, 10 different things? And I'm like, well, how do you eat an apple? A bite at a time, And so you start out with a service page, and then that becomes your template for all your next 9 service pages or your next 3 or next 5 or whatever. And so start with one and then build that out and then go to the next one. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with content that lets Google know who you are, what you do, where you are. The where you are thing is huge. I get on all kinds of different businesses, actually, not just therapy businesses, websites. And I'm like, where is this business? Like, where's their address? And it's like hidden somewhere at the bottom, and I go, man, at least just put it in the header. Like, we are in Fort Worth, Texas, just to give people an idea real quick, if you are, in their area at all.
And folks, Craig wants you to put questions in the chat or talk out, if you have specific questions that you are hoping to get answered today, don't be shy, put it out. There's no silly question. I know we've got folks here at all levels of practice, experienced folks, newbies, people thinking about going into private practice. So toss it in the chat or just let us know.
Yeah. I'm trying to grab that, the course website page, if I can find the link to it here, to share with you guys. But yeah, definitely feel free to throw some questions out there.
Okay. Amanda knows what she's doing here. She wants to know the top 3 to 5 keywords you suggest using in our online presence.
Boom, Amanda, you're breaking it down for us. So there's my Udemy course on Google My Business Optimization. So top 3 to 5 keywords, where'd it go?
And Rachel kind of wants to know the same thing.
Help you gain strength through Google, but also want to be unique so we stand out in therapist-heavy areas. Top 3 to 5 keywords suggest using in our online presence. So counseling is always going to be one. Therapy is one. And you're going to use those almost interchangeably because people use them almost interchangeably. When people are doing Google searches, a lot of people are going to search for counseling. Some people are going to search for therapy. So people are going to be doing a little of each. And so counseling, therapy are huge ones. And then whatever niche you're connected with. So anxiety counseling, depression counseling, anxiety therapy, relationship counseling, marriage counseling, couples therapy. And so I would say top 3 to 5 keywords. It's not anything that's rocket science. It's just you'd be amazed how many times I look at people's niche pages, and they talk a lot about anxiety and what anxiety is, and how I treat anxiety, but they never say anxiety counseling on the page. And I go, probably about 90% of the people that are searching for anxiety counseling in your area are searching anxiety counseling or anxiety therapy or anxiety therapist or anxiety counselor. And if you don't have those words on your page, Google can see that you know a whole lot about anxiety, but they have no idea that you do counseling for anxiety sometimes. And so I would say your top 3 to 5 keywords are always going to be anxiety are always going to be counseling or therapy, and then some that connect with your niche to grow out of just counseling and therapy.
Anxiety wizard.
Yeah, wizard. I like it. Anxiety wizard isn't a good.
I'm going to use it. I would use it.
It does sound clever and new age.
It might be out there, new niche.
Yeah.
And so, Craig, what you're talking about sounds an awful lot like, well, 2 things. Number one, that people, and I talk about this, you've got to have control of your back office so you can actually put content on your website. And then you're sounding a little bloggish to me, like people should be producing content. So content, right? So talk about that a little, because I think that scares people. We'd rather go put our name on the back of t-shirts to sell at the football game, right? But go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So, which, there's a place for that as well. If you want to reach teens and their the parents of teens, I suppose. But yeah, content is, you've heard it, content is king. And none of us like to produce content. It sucks to write blog posts. And, if you're one of those weird people that likes to write blog posts, I want to talk to you because I might pay you to write some for me. Yeah, so what we've done with blogging is I hate writing blog posts. I don't want to take the time to do it. So my therapists that work for me, I've basically just told them, hey, write me a blog or 2 every now and then, and I'll pay you your session rate for writing it. And that has helped us to get some blogs. I usually tell them 300 plus words. You think about that's not a huge amount of words. Now I have gone big a little bit on my website, and I always suggest this to people: is get somebody to write a big blog post on each of your niches. And by big blog post, I mean like a 2,000 word blog post, like a big. It talks everything about anxiety counseling. It uses all the possible terms that people could be searching for. It breaks down, what is anxiety? How do I treat it? Where does it come from? What to do in the moment? It gives, your top 5 tips. It's a massive chunk of information that basically looks like to Google, you really know what you're talking about. Now, I'll warn you that when you write blogs, you might have this idea that, thousands of people are going to read it and it's going to help people so much. And it's, people are going to print it out and show it to their friends. And that's probably not the case. Unless you just knock it out of the park and you're a great blogger and you develop a following. It's probably not the case that you're going to get a massive amount of people reading your blog. But what you are going to get reading your blog is a little Google spider. And and he's going to crawl around and he's going to see all the keywords and he's going to see all the things that you know about anxiety counseling. And he's going to go, wow, this is the person to talk to in Houston. Like, man, they know their stuff. They apparently know their stuff. They've written all these words about their stuff. And it's going to help your ranking. And so, so I would say blogging is big. And then you can take and use that blog post in multiple ways. So when you write a 300-word blog, you can take and chop out, just the top few sentences of it, a little bit of it, a paragraph of it, and you can tweak that just a little bit. You can drop it as a Google My Business post. And then you can link back to that blog from the Google My Business post. And so you're getting sort of double duty. You're pushing Google to say, hey, I see this. And you're also showing it to other people in your neighborhood. You can take an excerpt and you can put it out on your social media accounts with a link back to that blog post. You can put it in multiple different places so that Google sees it, so that people see it, and so that you don't feel like you wrote a 300-word blog post that's just sitting on your website for no apparent reason. So you can get double duty out of the things that you're doing. If you wanted to, I'm sure you could read it out loud and record it and put it on YouTube as a recording. I mean, you do all kinds of stuff with one piece of content. You can chop it up, and five quick tips to reduce anxiety can become its own little standalone post on social media or on Google My Business. But it's part of a bigger blog. So never feel like, you don't want to just be creating content for the sake of creating content. You want to create it strategically with some thought around what's going to be the most impactful, what's something I can use in multiple places. Does that make sense?
I think a lot of us probably, because of grad school, get locked into perfection, like it's got to be perfect. And what I hear you saying is this blog or this content is really a tool, and you can chop it up and use it different places because your audience is Google, this Google spider, not your grad school teacher, right? Nobody's
right.
Really.
Yeah, we think when we write, it has to be like so perfectly written and so, APA format or whatever. And no, not so much. You just want to write stuff that people want to read, and you want to write stuff that has the right keywords in it that talks about your services and where you're located. So in my blog posts or something, it may say something along the lines of, anxiety therapy is blank. And then it talks all about that. And then it says, here's 5 quick tips to reduce anxiety, because some people are searching for, how do I reduce anxiety? And then down at the bottom, it may say, Live Beyond Counseling and Coaching is located in Fort Worth, Texas, and serves clients in these areas. We provide anxiety counseling, in the North Texas area or something like that. And that gets you location stuff. It gets you keywords. It gets you information out there. Hopefully it helps some people, and it also helps Google to see you.
Okay, so let's get back to kind of this cost, because when we talk about marketing made easy, there's this idea of how much of my budget is this going to take up? So I want to back up to Katrina. So Katrina wanted to know, if you pay for admin hours and your clinician is not full, would you have them write a blog? They would be paid their admin rate I'm assuming, Katrina, rather than their session rate. And I don't know how you structure your practice.
Yeah, if you pay for admin hours, if you got a clinician that really just has the time to do it, and has the inclination to do it. I have 10 therapists, and only a few of them have ever written me a blog post. They just do not want to do it, and I'm not going to force them to do it. I just tell them, hey, you can get some money if you want to do it. Just like I don't want to be forced to do it, I'm not going to force them to. But yeah, if you've got somebody that's not full, they've got some admin hours available, they've got some time on their hands and the ability and willingness to do it, I would say it's a good use of your time and their time for them to write a blog post. I mean, a 300-word blog post, how long is it really going to take them to write?
That's nothing, right?
300 plus.
That's half
words.
A page.
Yeah, it's not. It's not the 20-page paper that we all hated to do in grad school. So it's minimal as far as the time commitment and the effort commitment. They just got to It's just about sitting down to actually do it, which is the problem. With marketing, I always say the marketing is not an expense as much as it is an investment, as long as you're doing good marketing. If you are doing poor marketing, if you're just throwing money out there,
T-shirts out of a cannon,
T-shirts out of a cannon, Google ads that you're just spending a lot of money, but they're not targeted very well, then marketing becomes an expense.
So that actually takes us to Janice, I think. Janice wants to know the pros and cons of Google My Business, i.e. Google reviews.
Yeah, I see these debates in all the different therapist therapy practice owner groups. And, I'm obviously a fan of Google My Business. I'm a fan of reviews because I'm a fan of looking at reviews. Anytime I'm looking for a restaurant, anytime I'm looking for any kind of service provider, let me tell you, I'm pulling up Google Maps, I'm searching for that service, and if they don't have any reviews, I'm not calling them. And if they only have 1 or 2 reviews, I'm probably not going to call them. And the more reviews they have, the more likely I am to call them. I got to think that I'm probably not the only person out there like me. I don't know who would say on here that they just, they don't care about the reviews. They just call whoever. This day and age, I feel like people are more and more looking for reviews. Now, I always tell all my therapists and anybody I talk to, don't ask your clients for reviews. That's a no-no. Obviously, we all know that. But I do tell people, hey, look at who else you know, who's in your circle, who are colleagues. I don't even tell my therapist to ask their friends because I just think that's weird. But who are your colleagues? Who are your professors? Who was your supervisor at your practicum site? Things like that. Those are the people that I want to get reviews from. Those are the people that can speak to who you are as a therapist, that they trust you. And they can say right there in the review, hey, I was her supervisor during her practicum, and I believe that she is doing excellent work with anxiety and depression in Houston, Texas. I want that kind of review that tells people up front, hey, I'm a colleague, but this is somebody I trust. And that way I don't feel shady about it. I don't feel like I'm padding my reviews by, getting my grandmother or my aunt to give me a review. You know what I mean? I don't know that I could teach my grandmother how to do it anyway. But I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel like I'm padding reviews. I feel like I'm getting actual, literal, these are people that believe in the work that is being done. And then I want to get their review. And so I go to my therapist about every 3 months or so. I just give them a little nudge and say, hey, if you asked one person to give you a review that specifically says your name, that would be good. And it's not like a thing they're forced to do. And again, some of them never do it, but it's one of those things that over time, as you gain more reviews, it just, it looks better, makes you rank better. Pros and cons of Google My Business overall. Cons? If you want to keep your therapy practice secret from all the people that are closest within 10 miles of you, I don't know. Some people might want to do that. But pros are if you want everybody within 10 miles of you or so many miles of you to know who you are, where you are, what you do, and that you're the place to call if they have that issue or that concern, then that's a pro.
So I hear you. We've got a list now, right? We're creating content. We're creating niche specific, location specific content. We're not making it rocket science. And for those of us who are in standalone practices, this is something that could easily go into a calendar, like something that they do on a monthly basis, on the third week, the second week, the fourth week. And so it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly. Don't, again, like I said, keep it simple. Don't try to get crazy with it. Don't try to do it all at once. If I was going to start a new therapy practice tomorrow in a new town, the very first thing I would do is try to get my Google My Business listing claimed and optimized before I ever built a website.
Well, so that gets, sorry, keep going. Angel's got a good question that's going to bring that in.
Yeah. Google has a free website that you can build through the Google My Business platform. It should not be your long-term goal as far as a website. But if I had an hour and no money and I was starting a new practice in a new location, I would build out my Google My Business and I would launch the Google My Business website in lieu of me getting a really good WordPress or Squarespace website.
Okay. And so with Angel, she wants to know suggestions for a completely virtual cash pay private practice in a rural area, because that's one of our big pushes in 2022, getting out to rural areas. So she's got Google My Business with ratings, blogs, social media pages, still need more reach. What would you tell Angel?
I'm glad you asked the question. So you're in a rural area, you're probably there's not that many people around you, or maybe you fear that there's not that many people that can afford cash pay. I will tell you that in every area, there are people that can afford cash pay. There are those people who can and or will afford cash pay for the right person, the right practice, the right therapist. But then when you go beyond that, on your website, on your Google My Business, you're going to want to mention and be mentioning those bigger cities, the places where, potentially your clients are located, right? Some of your people. And so if you're a virtual cash pay private practice, you're in a rural area and you're, in rural West Texas, so much dust and wind. And anyway, and you're in rural West Texas, you're going to be wanting to write, you might write a blog post that is about anxiety, let's say date night ideas for couples in Houston, Texas. And then within that, you're writing all about Houston, Texas and things to do there, what a couple could do and how to build your relationship, and how to connect on a deeper spiritual, physical, whatever level. And then somewhere in there, you're mentioning, hey, if you would like, couples counseling, or if you want to do, relationship building course or workshop that I'm offering, or retreat that I'm offering, or whatever, then reach out today. And you're giving them your information and a way to click and reach you. So you're going to want to write some things that have those places specific to those things. Now, with marriage counseling, it obviously comes a little easier because you can write about date night ideas in Houston. But if you're an anxiety counselor, there may be specific activities. When you talk about reducing anxiety, you talk about, hey, going for a walk, getting some exercise, getting out in the air, like doing some activity. And so you might mention some of those activities in Houston that there are to do, or you might mention those activities in El Paso. Don't walk towards the border. Right. So you might mention some of those types of things, right? The other thing that you're going to want to do is on your website, you're going to want to have a page specific to each of those big cities. So you're going to have a page that talks about anxiety counseling in Houston, Texas, or that talks about services in Houston, Texas, counseling services in Houston, Texas. And then on that page, it's going to speak about each of those types of people that you see, anxiety counseling, depression therapy, relationship counseling, and all of the above. So you're going to want to mention those things on the page and, write a paragraph about anxiety counseling in Fort Worth or in Houston. Don't come to Fort Worth. Don't be my competition. Just kidding. But yeah, so you're going to want those are called location pages. So if you do a quick Google search just for building location pages for your website, you're going to find tons of information from people way smarter than me that talk about building out location pages and what that should look like for various services and various whatever. So I'd say that that's a huge thing. Expanding your reach. Google My Business is probably not the easiest thing to expand your reach really far, because Google My Business is more of a location specific small location around you. But you can, within your locations, service areas tab in Google My Business, you can add those big cities in there and it'll help you a little bit. Yeah, if you want to reach people in Houston and you're in West Texas, have it in your Google My Business under your service areas. Mention it in your Google My Business, like under your business description. Write a few posts and updates in your Google My Business that mention that place, and then write a blog post or two, and then have a location page on your website.
That's pretty step by step.
Does that seem like too much? I don't know.
Thank you for what you're talking about. Like, can we talk?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to say thank you because, like, in regards to what you're sharing, that would be the next piece. I already have it on the locations and everything, but I don't have location pages. I'm the highest ranked counselor in my area. I'm actually in the bottom of Texas, Kingsville, Texas. So I'm way down there, or way down here. But I got this area on lock. And so I get the private people and everything, but I still know that there's more out there. Because still people are afraid sometimes about counseling. So what you're sharing will be very, very helpful just to take it to the next level, because I have all the blog posts, but I've never done location pages. So I think that'll help a lot.
Yeah, just think it through. I always say 500 plus words on the page. And really you start out the heading of, I'll just walk you through the page. The top of the page, you're going to have a picture of a nice, lovely couple, because you're a couple counselor. I don't really know if you are, but you're going to have a nice picture of a couple at the top, whatever type of couple you like to see best. And then over the top of that couple, there's going to be a heading. It's going to be a H1 heading in your website builder. I don't know if that's speaking Greek to any of you, but
no, it does. I maintain my page.
So it's going to be a H1 heading over the top of that says couples counseling in Houston, Texas. And then it's going to, in the first paragraph, it's going to say something like, if you've ever thought of seeking couples counseling in Houston, Texas, or if you've ever thought of seeking couples counseling, blah, blah, blah. I talked about, what you would want people to know there about couples counseling, about what you offer, about who you are, where you are, all that stuff. And then down at the bottom, it says, we are available via video counseling or via virtual counseling for residents of Houston, Texas. Somewhere in the middle of the page, it's got the different, niches or whatever that you serve. If you're only a couples counselor, you're going to want it to really just focus, the picture and everything down the page is going to focus around couples counseling for people in Houston. But if you are if you see couples, but you also do anxiety and you also do depression therapy or trauma therapy, then you're going to have, a picture of somebody that looks like they could be your client. You're going to have the heading over the top that just says counseling for couples and or anxiety counseling and couples counseling in Houston, Texas. And you're going to work down the page and you're going to define each of those. Anxiety counseling, what's that look like? What do I want people to know? Couples counseling, what's that look like? What do I want people to know? And then a call to action at the bottom. Hey, if you're in the Houston, Texas area and you'd like to give video counseling a try, give me a call, or contact me, and then give them a link. But yeah, the location page doesn't have to be rocket science. You can even specifically look for on your location page, you can put some pictures of places in that location. So, if you've got a picture of something that's everybody's going to recognize as Houston, Texas, you might put that on that page because Google's going to recognize it also.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So Rachel wants to get specific thoughts on Facebook ads.
Okay. I've used Facebook ads. I think that from my knowledge, from my doing it, and from seeing other people do it, from reading a bunch of marketing blogs and a bunch of different information on these topics, listening to all the podcasts while I'm driving. Facebook ads are very good for building a list of people in your community that are potentially interested in your services. Facebook ads are not as good for getting someone to call your practice and hire you that week, if that makes sense. Often therapists, therapy practice owners want, you want your marketing to have an ROI pretty quickly. You want your marketing to have some return on your investment. You want clients in the door. You're not looking for maybe 6 months from now, they'll give you a call and schedule. Though, as you grow, you want to start thinking more in that way. As you fill up, you want to start thinking about the longevity of your practice more. But I get it. If you're just trying to fill up, you're like, man, I need clients today. Facebook ads is not your friend if you need clients today. People do not get on Facebook looking for a therapist. They get on Facebook to make other people think their life is better than it really is. They get on Facebook to scope out that dude or that girl that they saw the other night. They get on Facebook to post pictures of their dog, but they're not necessarily getting on Facebook looking for therapy. What do you do when you need a service? You don't get on Facebook. Even if I need a plumber, I'm not getting on Facebook. If I need, somebody to fix my car, I'm not on Facebook looking for that. I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type in Google, this is what I need. I'm going to search for, I need a plumber in Fort Worth, Texas. You know what I mean? And then the one that shows up with the most reviews and the best reviews, I'm going to call them first.
So in terms of a marketing budget, it's still coming back to content, creating content, putting it out there, putting it so Google will search it and find it and post it.
Yeah, that's the best thing for overtime. Now, Amanda Esquivel, that's here somewhere. Yeah, she's here. She will probably tell you that Google ads have worked really well for her practice. We did some Google ads a while back, and that I just basically took what I did with my practice and what I have going with my practice with Google ads, and I just basically copy and pasted it onto Amanda's business a couple of years ago, and seems to have worked really well. But Google ads is a thing that takes some figuring out, it takes some determination, and it takes some spending money over time to start to reap those rewards. So I would say content is great, because if you can rank organically for something, if you can just have good SEO, good content, good information out there on your website and on the web and other places, then that's free, or sort of free. Takes your time, obviously. But Facebook ads are a difficult thing to dial in to get quick clients. Usually when you spend $1, you want to get $2 back. If you spend $100, you'd like to make a couple $100. I can tell you that on Google ads, I spend $1,200 a month for my practice of 10 therapists, and I spend every bit of that $1,200 within 8 miles of my practice location. Those are the only people I'm speaking to within 8 miles as far as Google ads, because those are the people that are most likely to actually follow through and schedule. If they're that close to my practice, they're searching for my niche, and they see my ad pop up, they're more likely to schedule than somebody that's 15 miles away. So I spend $1,200 a month within 8 miles of my practice. And I'll tell you that I get new clients at a rate of $30-something per client through the door with Google ads.
Wait, that's Facebook ads or Google ads?
That's Google ads. I'll take that all day, every day.
Okay.
$35 a client, I'll take it.
Talk about that a little bit then. Google ads, that's different from Facebook ads, right? Because Google ads, you're paying for some key terms, and you're paying for some, or maybe you're not, because we're so niche, right? I don't know if you have to pay big bucks for counselor and therapy.
Yeah, I'll mention one more thing about Facebook ads. I mentioned that Facebook ads is good for growing a list. What I've done with Facebook ads is I've run an ad that says, interested in marriage counseling, download this free couples counseling guide. And then I have a picture of a couple. And when they click on the guide link, it takes them to a landing page on my website, and they put in their name and their email address. When they put that in, my MailChimp sends them an email that has that couples counseling guide embedded in the email. It adds them to our couples counseling newsletter list, and they get what they wanted as far as the guide. They click on that guide, it downloads it to their computer. They open the guide up, it answers the top 5 questions that we get asked on the phone all the time about marriage counseling. You know, how much does it cost? How long will we have to come? What types of things will we work on? Those kind of just basic questions. It answers the top 5 questions. It's just a little guide that I created in Canva. At the end of that guide, it says, hey, if you're ready now, or if you get ready to schedule marriage counseling, we'd love to help. Reach out at, gives our phone number, gives an email address where they can reach out. It's a soft nudge at the end that's like, hey, get in touch with us when you need us. But what happens there is the person sees it on Facebook. They're probably never going to see the ad again, but they downloaded the guide, and then the guide lives on their computer. And when the guide lives on their computer, they might go back to it. Hang on one second. I got to close a door because people are being loud in another room. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that.
No worries.
People are being loud in the next room. Okay, so that's Facebook ads. You can use that to create, to get people to something very specific that you want them to grab that's free, but that gives you their information, so that over time, then you just send out a newsletter. Every time you have a new blog post, you send out a newsletter that says, hey, have you read our blog yet on couples counseling? Have you read our blog yet on whatever? And then gives them a link. Not a big deal.
So Facebook goes to list, goes to communication, to sending them content and keeping them engaged.
Yep, goes back to content and engagement. We have built a list of over 1,000 people within about, well, really, I did Facebook ads within about 8 miles of where we are probably. We built a list of about 1,000 people within 8 miles of us that are at least somewhat interested in couples counseling. Not bad.
That's awesome.
Not bad. And over time, we have people schedule about 1 person per week is what I'm up to right now. So, not a huge amount of people, but enough to make it worthwhile to do. Okay, so then we said Google ads.
And there's one question ahead of that. I just want to
sorry.
give you, no, you're fine. I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. We're going to try to end at 9, but so we've got 2 questions left. How does marketing look different when you are telehealth and can see people in the entire state of Texas? And then Rachel's asking, how does one do Google ads? So what, you can tackle both or pick one, or people can contact you later.
How does marketing look different for telehealth when you do telehealth and you can see people in the states? Okay. Yeah, so I'd say marketing looks a little different because you want those location pages on your website if you're going to see people all over. You can do Google ads that are spread out to different areas of the state. Just know that opens you up to be marketing against more people. Google's only going to show so many ads at the top of the search. And so if you're running ads in Fort Worth and North Fort Worth, you got to fight against me. If you're running ads in Houston, you got to fight against whoever the big players are there that are spending a lot of money in Google. That doesn't mean you can't win, obviously, but it just makes it that much more difficult. I always tell people, if you can help it, if there are enough people around you, unless you're in the middle of absolute nowhere, way down in South Texas or way over in West Texas, unless you're in the middle of absolute nowhere and there's not people around you, try to win your market first. I talk to people all the time that because they're telehealth, they want to market everywhere. And I tell them, win your 8 to 10 mile radius first, because it's going to be more expensive, more time consuming, more difficult. You're going to have to pay more attention to it. You're going to have to pay more people like me to help you with it. And you're going to have to work your tail off more if you're trying to reach people in Houston, Dallas, El Paso, Amarillo, and everywhere in between. If you want to win your 8 mile radius, you can knock that out of the park with a great Google My Business, a great website, and some content going out. You know what I'm saying? And so you got to be careful not to set your sights too big on the whole state when you don't have to. We have 10 therapists, all private pay. We offer telehealth as well. I market to 8 miles around us.
That is so important. It's like niche, it's not limiting you. It's actually, you're dominating that 8 mile radius.
It's focused attention. It's not limitation. Because I can focus my attention and I can beat out, I can increase my reach within my area. But if my attention goes all over the place and my marketing goes all over the place, that means my marketing money and time goes all over the place. And then each place gets less of my time, money, and attention. So, people that talk about getting licensed in multiple states so they can see people, in 3 or 4 different states, I'm like, okay, that must mean you're really killing it in your state. But often that is not the case. Often people say back, well, no, I've had trouble finding clients, so I'm going to go get licensed in Oklahoma also. And I'm like, it's going to be more difficult to find clients in Oklahoma than it is right around you. So how are you gonna swing that? It's gonna be more expensive and more difficult. Google Ads, real quick.
2 minutes. Give us 2 minutes. Master Google Ads.
I thought we had another hour. I was all lined up to do this for 2 hours.
That's good though. I mean, everybody hear that? You can buy another hour of Craig's time.
She just bought herself out of the conversation. You can see that. No. So how does one do Google Ads? Okay, that is a huge question.
It is huge. I know.
How does one do Google Ads? One, either find somebody that really knows Google Ads and knows how to put them together and knows how to build the ad and limit the ad to where everybody and their mama's not seeing it, that's searching anything. If you don't do therapy for free, you probably don't want to show up for free therapy, right? But you'd be surprised, maybe you wouldn't, about how many people's Google Ads I get on, and I look at their ads account and they're showing up for free this and free that, and occupational therapy and speech therapy and all these different things. And so you got to find somebody, or you got to learn how to narrow your ad and to target your ad so that you're not wasting $3 a click or $5 a click on stuff that's never going to pay you any money back. That's a good way to kill your ROI. But over time, Google Ads gets better because you can create, you can make negative keywords. If you see something weird showing up, like for me, if I see an insurance company showing up as, when somebody's searching for Blue Cross Blue Shield counseling in Fort Worth, I don't want to show up for that. And I can make that a negative keyword. Google knows never show anybody that ad again who is searching for Blue Cross. Google Ads is a thing that you got to spend money to make money on it, but you got to be careful and ramp up slowly. I did some coaching with a couple in Vegas who had the bright idea that they were going to basically cash in all of their savings and that they were going to build a big group practice. He was a marketing guy, but had never worked in the therapy world. and she was a therapist who had never done anything with marketing. Good combination. So they told me they were spending, I think it was thousands of dollars a week in Google Ads from day one of their practice opening. They started their ads at like $100 and something, $200 a day per ad. Yeah. And when I came in, they were like 10,000 in the hole with not very much to show for it. And they had cashed in their savings and they were worried about eating. And I ended up tweaking their Google Ads, creating some negative keywords in there and reducing their spend down to about $1,000 a month instead. And now they're a group practice and they've got a bunch of clinicians working for them, and it's working. But what they were doing is throwing a whole bunch of money at a big machine that they did not know about. And that is dangerous. That's a very quick way to get yourself struggling,
Absolutely.
Get yourself really upset and worried. And so don't do that.
All right, I'm going to close this down.
Okay.
Craig you're going to give me links and things.
Yeah.
So we'll post the links in the Badass Business group.
Yeah, I'll give you some more of that. Because
Craig, you do coaching, Amanda could testify as to how much you've helped her practice, I know. And this is something that there's a learning curve here, right? And so to make that learning curve a little less expensive, a little more, actually steep is good, right? You want to learn quickly. So that would be something you could help people with, right?
Yeah. I definitely can help that. I have people that do coaching sessions where I walk them through Google My Business Optimization, where I walk them through SEO for their website, where I walk them through, a quick overview of all the things that we've done to grow. Everything from sponsoring local community groups, joining your Chamber of Commerce, all your social media stuff, all your Google My Business, all your website, all your Google Ads, all that stuff. And so definitely, yeah, would love to talk to anybody that's interested and share kind of, I was going to say, you can, I think, Kate, you tagged me this morning, you tagged my profile this morning in the group. So feel free to click on that. Feel free to shoot me a message, ask any questions about what we talked about today. And then ask me for the list of the 20-something things, and I'll shoot them your way with a bit of thought around those.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. Thanks for sharing your expertise this morning. I know a lot of people were excited about this session, so it was answered so many questions. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more to it. So if y'all reach out. Our next mentor of the month is going to be Amy Wine next month, talking about the best week ever. And so more about balance, more about all the things to help us not lose our minds and our practice. So y'all have a great day. Craig, have a great day. Thanks for joining us. I'll get this recording link to you ASAP. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.